Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Primetime Crisis Live. I'm your host, Captain Logan, and once again, we're going to talk for a whole hour, and possibly a little bit longer, about all the geeky superhero comic book TV shows that came out last week. Let me introduce my lovely co-hosts. It's TheRealManos.
Thank you.
Wow, we were never able to hear the audience before. I sure hope there's no hecklers in the audience. And beware the Steve Baxi.
Hey, everybody.
Nobody's clapping for Steve. That's okay, Steve. Nobody claps.
All right, that's all right. I was just kidding.
That's cool. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for joining us if you're watching us live right now. As always, we got the blue chat box in the description, so click on that if you're watching right now and you have not done that yet and you are interested in chatting with us and chatting with all of your fellow viewers. We will be allowing you to direct much of our conversation as we go along. We will decide which show we're watching in what order, and we're keeping the same order we've done for the last couple weeks. It seems to have made the most sense. And bookending the shows Manos watched and then having Manos go wash his dishes or whatever while we're in the middle of the other shows that we'll be talking about. Unfortunately, Dan Torrey wasn't able to join us this week. He is busy doing more important things and doing stuff for school, and so it will just be the three of us this evening. And the other thing I should mention, as always, is there is a poll in the description, and you can vote at any time during the show about what your favorite TV show was from this last week, your favorite episode. We're going to start straight away with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so be sure to start writing your questions and comments to us about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and we will get to as many of those as humanly possible. Why don't we start this week with Manos. Manos, the episode in question is The Dirty Half Dozen, getting the band together. And how did you feel about this week's episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Ward and finally getting almost back in there? And it's kind of little setup right at the end for Age of Ultron.
Well, it was a nice little promo for the Age of Ultron film. Outside of that, I keep wanting somebody to just shoot Ward. Just like, just in a in the meeting, like, he's one of the things I think makes him an interesting character is also something that makes him an annoying character is that he has this superiority complex, which drives me insane. Like, you are the worst person, and yet you're like, comping this attitude with everyone. I just like, I remember thinking, like, May, just pull your gun out and shoot him. No one will care. Everyone, you could just say, hey, you pulled out a gun and went crazy. But no, of course that doesn't happen. But
well, that's okay, Manos, because Simmons is trying. Simmons is doing her level best to give you precisely what you want right now.
Well, good for her. I was a little surprised by that little moment, wasn't it? It's like, wow, this is cute little adorable Simmons just gonna like blow the guy up at a finger trigger. I mean, that's pretty cold.
A little bit, yeah.
It was an okay episode. The show really hasn't got me back on board since it kind of lost me over the last few weeks. I thought some of the sequences were great. That little plane crash sequence I thought looked really good. I thought some of the action at the end of the episode was good. But the show seems to still have characters way more angry than I think they need to be.
Way more angry?
Yeah. Do you get that sense?
Like
everybody's
everybody's
everyone. Everyone's just so mad.
Do you mean to say, Manos, that everyone is acting like the stakes are much higher than they really are?
Exactly. Everyone's acting like it's Battlestar Galactica, and it's more like the A-Team.
Look,
so,
it's not everybody that's not Ever James Olmos's fault that suddenly they feel like they're in Battlestar Galactica. Because you get him because, you know what, that's actually really funny that you say that, because maybe the thing is that the producers of the show think they're making Battlestar Galactica.
Beginning to think so.
And then they got Olmos so that it would feel more urgent than it really is. I'm being too hard on it.
And in one episode, we had Lucy Lawless, who was also in Battlestar Galactica.
Yes, she was.
It's like it's a mini reunion.
She was one of my favorite things about Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's a wonderful show. All right, so anyway.
Let's talk about Battlestar Galactica.
Steve, what did you think about this episode?
I'm kind of siding with Manos here. I wasn't crazy about this episode. It was okay. It had moments here and there that I thought were kind of interesting. The Cal Sky and her mother stuff is still It's interesting, but it's not doing nearly as much as I think it wants to. And a lot of the problems I'm having with this show at this point are just it feels like it's a checklist. Like that whole last scene with setting up Age of Ultron, I didn't really need that at all. It just felt like someone was doing things by the numbers to get us there, just to make it feel like the show's actually important when it's really not. Like people in the MCU films have just admitted the show doesn't matter, and the show keeps trying to act like it's this big important thing, like Manos was saying. I don't know. At the end of the day, it just really feels like we're trying to sell these characters and these themes as hard as possible. Like there's that whole scene where Ward's talking about his plan with the rest of the team, and we can just see the tension. We get it. This is awkward. But then they feel the need to stop for 5 minutes and make a whole speech scene out of it. And I didn't need that at all. I don't know. I feel like the whole show is just kind of meandering in that way. Like it's trying too hard to justify itself when it should just be trying to have fun or tell a good story. It's really hard to get enthusiastic about these episodes now, just because I feel like they're trying too hard to appease me and not enough to just give me something to latch onto.
I think it's important to note, or at least for my part, that it's not as important that the show feels necessary, that the show matters to the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe, as it is that I'm interested in enjoying myself while I'm there and not struggling to remember what happened episode to episode. I watched this one twice and I'm just not engaged right now, and I want to be, and I feel bad about it, because it's like, every week we talk about sometimes shows that we're not especially engaged with, and it's like, well, why do you guys keep up with it? I'm like, well, it started off better than this, and in the middle of the first season I was quite with it. But yeah, a lot of people keep saying things like, somebody in the comments wrote like, Agents of Irrelevant and stuff like that, and even if that's the case, even I think that people are, including us, complaining that it doesn't matter in the greater Marvel Universe for two reasons. A, they're not articulating that they're bored. They're not articulating that they're just not interested in these characters, and if they were, it wouldn't matter that it's not doing anything for them. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy didn't have hardly anything to do with the rest of the Marvel Universe, and who cares? It's a really fun movie that people like those characters. But I think that the other reason is because it's pretending like it is. It's acting like it really matters. That last scene, what am I missing, Steve? Was there anything through the rest of the episode that was like building to that, where stuff that Coulson's doing has something to do with Age of Ultron? Is like what I'm trying to figure out is if something about that protocol has something to do with like List and the twins and stuff.
One of the scientist guys that they were after was with Strucker in the opening scene of Age of Ultron.
Oh, okay.
That's about it. He's completely inconsequential to that movie, and I mean, I've seen Age of Ultron 3 times now. Nothing in that Hydra's opening scene has anything to do with this episode aside from that one actor.
Well, almost nothing in that opening scene in Age of Ultron has anything to do with the rest of Age of Ultron. I think people really, and I won't give any spoilers in case any more spoilers than that, in case people haven't seen Age of Ultron yet. I imagine most of our audience that watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this week has probably been in the theater by now. But yeah, I think people really expected Hydra to be a lot more of the story. I mean, to be in a lot more of Age of Ultron and matter more. And I think thematically there's some interesting stuff with them, but they kind of show up at the beginning, and it's just set up to link the two movies together. And so, in dealing with Hydra throughout this season, this is where I'm a little bit perplexed right now, guys. I felt like we were kind of like meandering around Hydra and not doing a lot with them this season because we wanted to be careful that we didn't step on Age of Ultron. But then they don't really matter all that much to Age of Ultron, except giving us a couple of new Avengers. So I don't know why we haven't been fighting them this whole season. I feel like now they kind of handed Hydra off, unless they have more plans down the road with like Captain America or whatever, to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They should feel much more like a big bad right now than they do. And I mean, yeah, they do. That's the one force we're fighting against. But what are their plans right now? How big are they? What are they even trying to accomplish? And I've got a lot of that right now, where I'm just like, what are people trying to accomplish? And I think that might say more about how I'm watching the show and not invested than it does about the show. Because I keep feeling like if I went back and watched a bunch of episodes in a row, I'd suddenly, oh, that's what it's doing. Okay. So yeah, the stuff with with Sky's father, I was so interested in it last week, and this week I'm kind of bored again. We go back to Afterlife, and there's just all this talk about should we let him stay, should we let him go? I'm like, why are we still talking about this? So anyway. I'm gonna look at some of the comments. You guys feel free to keep chatting. I like the Ward stuff better than you guys seem to have.
I like. See, here's the thing. I like the Ward stuff. He is. The thing is, when I talk about him like this, he's become a character. That character you love to hate kind of character. I mean, I think he's extremely. He's one of the best things about the show. But I just want him dead every time he's on the screen. He's.
See, not me. I still find him really interesting. One thing I really dug.
I find him interesting. It's just I hate him. You know what works? What they're making me. They want me to hate him, and I hate him. So it's working that way. Now, if they want me to be on his side, go, well, he has some interesting points there. Well, then that is a failure. But if the idea is for me to just, I can't wait for him to die. Well, then. Good work. See, it's not doing that for me at all, though, Mano. So I feel like you can like a character and not agree with their ideology. Yeah. But that's what's happening with me with Ward right now. Is I am still somewhat sympathetic toward him. He is twisted, and what happened to him in his past was really super sad. And it is kind of funny that he keeps kind of calling back to it, like, no, you're supposed to feel bad for me because of what happened with my parents. I love that in the scene where it's like, yeah, we've all had bad stuff. We didn't go off and become psychopaths and kill everyone. Yes.
And throw people into the ocean. You know, but I did really like the stuff with him in 33. This really plays with the old adage of if you love someone, let them go, and I was really surprised he did that with her. My read on him with her last episode was completely off, and I enjoyed that it was. Last week I said that I thought that he was kind of like molding her maybe into his like perfect version of her because she doesn't know who she is anymore, and it ultimately was about him helping her to find freedom because that was something he was never really allowed, and to find like her own purpose and her own peace of mind and who she really is, and he was never really allowed to have that, and so I really liked that. But I do, as we keep saying, I do think there's just a lot of stalling right now, and I don't really know why.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely forgot more of his ideology. Like at the end of the day, we've got stuff with 33 that's interesting enough, but it feels like all Ward's character is, hey, that's that guy that everyone hates because he's a bad person, and he's doing this one good thing for this one good person. But I don't understand where any of that's really coming from. It's interesting enough. You could develop those two characters if they had more episodes and more screen time together, and I like their relationship. I just don't really understand what he's trying to do with her, or why he loves her as much as he does, or why he's trying to kind of reconcile with the group. Like, what's his psychology like at this point?
I imagine that he probably, I don't know if he truly fell in love with her, or he is just simply sympathizing with her as someone he feels was brainwashed or goaded into this kind of life or position, manipulated maybe, and maybe he felt sympathy with her for that.
That's
now, if he truly fell in love with her, I can't really decide at this point. So it does seem that if he did fall in love with her, this may be his way of like trying to figure out how. Jeez, you're right. I don't know.
Well, I think the idea. I don't know. I'm not as confused about it as you guys seem to be. I don't think. I think that he really does love her, and it doesn't matter how romantic or what kind of love it is. It's that this is a person that he truly cares about. In the same way that he came to truly care about the team on the plane, even though he was supposed to be infiltrating them, and that's why going back with them and having to work with them again is difficult for him. And the whole idea is he wishes that things could be the way they were because he wishes that he was that guy, and he never was that guy, and so he had to do what he did because he was loyal to Garrett, but he wishes he could have been that guy. I like that. I think that's interesting. Steve, I'm with you when you say that that maybe they're not communicating enough of why he's he's as into her as he is, and how he got to that place. But I feel like I can look at all the history that we've had with the show and kind of figure it out, and I feel like there's enough there if you look at it as a complete piece, at least up to the point that we have right now. But I think that maybe we're not picking up on as much as we wish we were because we simply are not invested to keep all of that stuff in the back of our mind. So the question is it subtlety, or are they not explicit enough?
I feel like that's a question we're going to have to answer when the season wraps up, because, yeah, there's stuff here. There's interesting enough stuff here. Every now and then I latch onto something, but then every other part of the plot seems to lose me. So maybe it's just a matter of I need to, like, really sit down and anchor myself to the show to figure it out.
Remember that this is a show, and we should move on in a second, but this is a show that went almost half a season making you think that Ward was the most typical, rounded around the edges, like, good spy soldier guy, and there was, like, nothing to his personality, and then suddenly he turns out to be the mole and has all this really interesting past with Garrett, and they took this giant risk making us kind of bored with him, so that when they finally did that reveal, it was a huge big deal. Are they still doing that kind of stuff? Is it still that sort of thing? And if so, is it too big of a risk? I say at this point, yes. I say that you can play that card one time, and that wasn't enough. I mean, for a lot of people, they weren't sucked in enough at the beginning to keep going with it, so that risk backfired on them. But I guess it's still doing well enough to stay on the air. So,
well, my hope is the season isn't over, the series isn't over, but my hope is his direction is becoming more of a full-on villain, actually. Because you're right, I can't take it back. I can't take him back. I
think he's gonna die. I think they'll kill him.
That's possible.
And my hope, and I know we keep saying stuff like Simmons is gonna go evil at some point, but and that's never even come close. But look at all the seeds they've been planting. Simmons hates powered people. She has this weird thing where she's not real sure how she feels about Sky anymore. She wants to put an explosive on Ward's back and blow him up, and she'll sleep fine the night she does that. I still think we might be slowly, like molasses, like middle of season 4, we'll finally get there, turning her evil.
Possibly.
Or just making her a lot darker and a lot more hardened. One criticism, real quick, this is neither here nor there, that I wanted to throw out real quick because I thought it was hilarious, is why in the world did Gordon teleport Cal right in the middle of everyone? Because he starts saying, like, our daughter, and everybody was like, oh my god, they were married? What? And like that was this big secret they've been holding. There's been this weird like placement thing all over Afterlife where I'm like, I don't know why you put Raina right across from where Sky was so she could just walk right across and see her. And I sure as heck don't know why we teleported right in the middle of everyone.
That's a good point. At times, this show, and the way it deals with characters' motivations and story arcs, almost feels as bad as Charmed.
Oh, I didn't know Charmed
did that.
was bad. I never watched that show.
Charmed was horrible at this kind of stuff. Like, they build a character up like, oh, this character's always the ultimate good, and they are a complete awful scumbag. And then we're supposed to forgive them. And then this, and then it's just like, oh my god. And, and then they build up this thing like, oh, this character's the ultimate evil thing ever, and then they like point at him and zap, and like he disintegrates and dies in like a second. It's just like, I don't know. I hope that's not the future. I hope Charmed is not the future of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But I have a minor question. If we're about to jump off the episode, right?
I do want to answer a couple things here that I'm seeing finally.
Yeah.
But you're fine. Go ahead.
I can't remember her name. What's the name of the chick who is now the porcupine girl?
Raina.
This is a tiny nitpick, I suppose, but it doesn't really have anything to do with any real in-depth plot synopsis or anything like that, or anything. But am I the only person who watched her get up out of her bed and wondered why aren't her sheets ripped up?
No, but she's got the
fine.
Wills. I don't. Oh! I thought you meant why are they ripped up? Oh.
No, why aren't they ripped up? No, they're fine. And she's like having a nightmare, and she's got these razor sharp quills on her back, and everything looks nice.
See, I thought up until you just said that, I thought the quills were only on her face.
No, they're on her back too, right?
Oh, yeah, they are. They showed her like that in the mid-season premiere, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe her sheets come from Krypton. Let's answer a few questions real quick. Rocket says, Marvel's movie division is not really fans of the show as well. They didn't want it to happen. They wanted S.H.I.E.L.D. gone and the end of, at the end of Age of Ultron, and something new is born or something, is what he thinks. Yeah, and that's the thing, is that once again, it's difficult to take take the show seriously when I'm not just in love with it as its own thing, just on its own. I mean, like I've always said this about continuity in comics and everything else. I can enjoy a thing taking it on its own if the story is great, but if it's just there to kind of support the rest of everything else and it feels totally superfluous, I don't have any reason to care any more than I do about action without story to drive it. So anyway, Whedon came out in a somewhat disturbing interview recently, and as people keep talking about, and said that he that in his mind, Coulson is still dead, and that for the sake of the Marvel movies, Coulson's still dead. And I'm like, then why am I watching this show? Because the questions of whether this show is ever going to do anything that's actually going to directly impact anything around it is kind of answered at this point. I think we're like, okay, it's still in the same continuity. They still fit together, okay, except there's a lot of weird questions in my head, like how in the world does not one Avenger know Coulson's still alive? I just don't get it. I don't buy it. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, he's right. These things are kind of separate at this point, and it's sad because we don't have that with Daredevil, and we don't have that with Agent Carter, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to get a spin-off now that is probably going to replace Agent Carter, because I doubt that they'll bring it back. And I mean, maybe we'll get both, but I really doubt it gets a season 2. And there's a lot of talk that it probably won't, but who knows. But anyway, so if it gets a spin-off, is that spin-off going to matter more, or is it going to be even less mattering? Anyway. There was one more thing I wanted to mention, and I'm not seeing it right now. One second. Carl Marksy, why didn't they take the opportunity to bring Phil Coulson back to the Avengers? That's the only problem with the movie. Because, again, Coulson wishes he was dead.
And after Winter Soldier, when all the S.H.I.E.L.D. secrets were thrown on the internet, how come Tahiti and Coulson's name didn't pop up to anybody?
Oh, that's a really good point. Because they don't matter.
There we go. Okay, that makes perfect sense.
And what's sad is there are a lot of characters in the show that people want to see mix up with other things in the Marvel universe.
Nerd and Hawkeye.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go ahead and move on to Flash? We've been on this for quite a while now. So Manos, we'll see you in just a little bit.
Sure.
I'll ring you on Facebook or whatever, and let you know when we're coming back, unless you're just going to listen to us.
I thought you just stood there for a second.
Yeah. Steve, why don't we go on to Flash? And today's Flash episode in question is The Trap. So if you're watching live, go ahead and start sending us questions and comments if you'd like to about Flash this week. I imagine we'll see a lot of stuff. This, of course, is a really pivotal episode. And finally, an episode back up to the quality and spec, I think, of what we have really loved from earlier in the season. I overall thought this one was quite well done. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought this was really interesting. I love the ending stuff with Wells. Wells is just really fascinating right now, and I can't wait to see what's like at the end of the season. The only major criticism I want to bring up is I hate the Barry and Iris stuff. The whole she knows his identity now because of that weird electrical touch they had together is really contrived and really CW.
Yeah, really contrived.
And the whole Eddie trying to ask her to marry him and stuff, I didn't care about any of that. But excluding all of that, Eddie Thawne's relationship to Yerborg Thawne and stuff where he's only keeping Eddie alive to kind of to confirm his own existence. And he still has that philosophy of, you guys have been dead for centuries, none of this really matters, and there's a interesting idea of what time is like if things are really like that way. and the stuff we get with potential future Barry inventing the computer, all that's just really interesting mystery stuff. And I don't really know how to feel about it until we get the finale and we know where all of this is going. But just as of right now, it's really exciting. This show definitely knows how to make you come back every week, which is important comparing to stuff like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Gotham.
I love the status quo at the end, man. I'm just really stoked to see Barry in a world where Wells knows, or where he and Wells know where each other stands, and now he's just got his straight up arch nemesis out there doing stuff to him. The cameras everywhere thing took me really by surprise.
Yeah, me too.
I loved that, and I guess I should have seen it coming. But like when Barry walks back in there, and he's got all those cameras everywhere, and all of a sudden that explains everything about how he set up the trap on top of Barry's trap. When you compare this again, some of the same people working on the show, when you compare this to the really kind of overly elaborate plot from Deathstroke in season 2 of Arrow, and then you look at a thing like this, and everything he's doing makes sense.
Yeah,
and that's really cool. At least so far, just looking at this episode to episode, it seems like everything, his whole plot. I know what he's doing for the most part. I know why, and the stuff I don't know, I'm not supposed to know yet. I'm still, what little mystery is there still is interesting. It's cool to know just how far in the future he's from, because I always got the sense that because that newspaper article was from 2024, that's where he's from, but it's not.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting, because then it's like, okay, well, if he's from 100 years in the future, but his arch nemesis is the Flash, and they fought like over and over and over again, why is that? So like, did he go back in time and fight Flash like in our future but his past, or is Flash immortal because of the Speed Force? What is all that?
Yeah. No, seriously, yeah, that's all interesting. And just paralleling to Arrow, I think even though Arrow's not great right now, it's kind of cool that Barry's fighting a guy from hundreds of years in the future, and Arrow's fighting a guy from hundreds of years in the past.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, that's cool.
I think that's legitimately interesting. And Ra's al Ghul, I still like. So Ra's al Ghul and Tom Cavanaugh's Reverse Flash, they're just really interesting characters to parallel compared to each other. And it kind of helps that universe coalesce a little bit more, because when you watch an episode of Arrow and you watch an episode of Flash right next to each other, they do kind of play like interesting mirror opposites, and Flash is kind of where Arrow was at the end of season 2. Like that twist at the end of The Promise back in season 2 of Arrow is exactly where we are here, but the tension's built the exact same way, except things are just far more direct, as if like this is the second draft of the end of that season. Like they really refined some of that stuff. I think that's really exciting. I really hope the show doesn't drop the ball the next season, because the way this mystery is building, it's a little convoluted, but it's convoluted to the point where it's just fascinating. You've got so many questions that are more about the characters' perspectives and their relationships to each other, and less just about logic.
Yeah, I think it's convenient before it's convoluted, Steve, because I understand what is happening plot point wise. I get why Wells knows what he does when, and why he's able to his machinations and set up what when. What I don't get is how exactly the time travel works, and time travel is a conceit. So as long as I care about what's going on, and I buy that, and I buy everyone's motivations, and the like the present day linear stuff doesn't feel too convenient, I don't care as much.
Yeah, I agree.
I will say that some things are too convenient, especially in setting up thematic stuff, and it does continue to do that, although not quite as bad as it did the last 2 weeks. But in having Eddie propose in this episode is pretty convenient, because all of a sudden he's going to find out about that Wells is really Eobard Thawne, and so we have to have that big reveal during a big dramatic thing for his character. And since we only do romantic, irritating, two-dimensional Iris stuff with him, that's what it had to be. And also, but I think that's also there because it's like, well, they're not supposed to get together, and so he's not going to let that happen. But I don't know how much of that's on his brain so much as just terrorizing him.
Right.
So, I guess we'll see. But yeah, the Iris stuff is annoying because, I mean, it's always annoying, but part of the reason with this particular episode is because she has that line where she's like, she basically says, Eddie, I always trust you. And I'm like, no, you don't. And
were you there 2 episodes ago when you gave him an ultimatum? I guess not.
Were you there? were you there last episode where you basically strong-armed him into telling you enough of the truth where you when Joe and I like Joe not giving him permission. Joe is like Quentin Lance, where he's the one character that almost always makes sense, always, right? He's the voice of reason guy, and it's like, can we just make everyone middle-aged men in these shows? Because that's all they know how to write. Middle-aged men. Every character should be a middle-aged man. But Quentin Lance, not Quentin Lance. I'm sorry. I guess I like the name Quentin Lance. No, Quentin Lance. No, Joe has that thing where he's like, no, I'm not gonna give you the blessing, and then tells Barry later that it's because he knows that she's not gonna be happy with him. It would have been nice if he, and that's fine, but it would have been nice if he had also tacked on, there's not a foundation there for a relationship that will last. You know, that's what an old-fashioned gentleman like him would say, I think.
It would be interesting to see her confront Iris about the fact that she's not good at relationships as well, because he's clearly hinting at that, but to get that directly might even salvage her character a little bit.
Well, that's a good point, and you could potentially blame the parentage a little bit for the fact that she's the way she is if he doesn't talk to her about stuff like that.
Yeah, we mentioned last episode how he never mentions his wife. So a lot of that interesting parent-daughter psychology might actually play into it. We just need to make it a bit more explicit between those two, since they rarely get screen time with each other outside of just being in danger and worrying.
Yeah, you're right. They don't really have much of a chemistry together. Well, let's answer some things here, shall we? AMC Comics, I understand Barry wants to get his dad out of prison, but shouldn't he focus on capturing the evil metahuman speedster before extracting a confession?
Yes, because Barry's been kind of selfish this whole season. He's been really gung-ho about the time travel stuff. He's not really thinking about the consequences. And things just kind of align for him. So yeah, I could see that being a legitimate problem, because he feels like he's too much Oliver season 1, where he's got an end goal. He's not really thinking about what the hero identity really means yet.
Yeah. Something else he's not considering is the fact that that we're not dealing with a police force that could handle something like him.
Yeah.
So if he gets the confession and he goes and gives it to the police who, by the way, now believe in things like shapeshifters and Scarlet Speedsters, he could tell them everything and they would believe, oh, he's from the future and he can run really fast like Flash. What is the Reverse Flash going to do to them when they know this thing?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So, yeah, I didn't think of all that. In fact, I kind of forgot that he was doing that in order to extract the confession to get his father out of prison. I thought it was more, for a minute, I guess I thought it was more, well, if everybody's against him, but I'm like, no, that's a horrible idea. I didn't notice this. Shadow said in the Future newspaper they named Arrow Green Arrow. That's pretty, there's a lot going on that piece of paper. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Hopefully he does get that name at the end of the season or something.
Oh, I love this Holiday. Someone brought up male writers as the reason Arrow can't do romance, but a lot of the writing stuff is female.
Oh, that's interesting.
Is that true of Flash too? Because I don't know what the main writing staff is. I'll have to look at it.
Yeah, I've never actually checked that right now.
There's really no excuse. Now, I don't think it's fair to say, oh, women are always better at romance. Right. Because they're women, but at the very least, you'd think that good female writers would be better at making women feel like real people than men trying to go, okay, what does the demographic want? You know what I mean? But that's not to say that you can have female writers doing exactly the same thing. What does the demographic want?
There is a very even distribution of male and female writers, a lot of them working side by side with Flash. So yeah, that's kind of strange. Like men and women are paired for the show almost every episode. That's interesting.
Darth Curtius. I hope somehow Eobard is the result of a long line of fawns that were bred from Eddie and Iris. I don't think that'll happen because Iris... the idea that Iris is Eobard's ancestor would be twisted. Yeah, that's funny. But
it's kind of twisted Brave New World, yeah.
I don't think that's likely, because that would mean that as far as that newspaper goes, I mean, yeah, you could have, a paradox, I guess, but we've had a newspaper from the future, and that person exists right now. So unless Barry is her second husband, I don't really see it.
Yeah, and that'd be just kind of contrived to get the cheap drama out if Barry is her second husband.
Nostra Preposterous, this episode made me further dislike last week's Flash even more. Yeah, fair enough. Especially with an episode title like Who is Harrison Wells? I think that was last week. And this week, boy, I mean, you almost could use that same title. And really cool, all the stuff that we finally get with him. One thing that I'm a little bit worried about moving forward, and of course, this was inevitable, but I'm going to miss the dynamic with all of them in the lab. Like I'm a little bit worried that some of those scenes are going to be flatter and a lot less interesting without Wells there to ground it.
Yeah, you're right. Even when we know he's evil, he's helping Caitlin figure out the dream thing. It's really good banter between the two.
As long as he's
I like his
pretending,
relationship with
it's
Cisco a lot.
Me too. And you know what? We should totally mention the Cisco thing. They've got me now hook, line, and sinker with the killing him off and then reversing time thing. It worked. I cannot believe I'm saying that, but it totally worked.
Yeah, I agree with you. The whole using your dreams to get at your memories thing doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but that's okay. He's still interesting, and I like that that's actually an important plot point.
It was fun. It's like Superman. They had to kill him off before I cared about him.
Yeah,
and that's where I'm at with Cisco now. When like they have played that scene in like 4 different ways now with some of that similar dialogue, and every time they do it, it's gripping. I really like it. I'm with you. The whole dream thing is silly, but it was and also the whole remembering things that happened in the past thing. I'm still not 100% on.
They just sweep the explanation under the rug, like, oh, it doesn't matter because things are confusing.
Yeah,
that was kind of annoying.
And we've seen that with a lot of time travel things in the past, and that's kind of the obvious, easy go-to. It's like, well, it's time travel, so you can contrive anything, and that works a little bit easier when you're not dealing with a group of scientists. Moist Von Lipwig. Female writers don't necessarily make female characters more human. You can, though, rely on female writers to cater to female romanticized fantasy better than male writers can. Well, I'm not going to respond to that, but I can see why you're saying that. I mean, as far as like female writers not necessarily making female characters more human, because they might just not be that great at writing. You know what I mean? Like, men don't always make convincing male characters either. But if you get a really, really good writer, they usually, 9 times out of 10 can probably write their own gender a little bit better than the other, just because they know what it's like to be that gender, unless they, are really. Veteran writers that have a lot of experience and done a lot of that.
Yeah, maybe we should just get at like the different perspective of it. Even if you're not a good writer, it's good to have someone else of a different gender or a different background in the room, just so you can understand that people see things in smaller ways differently.
If I may interject here, I think I might have a suggestion on this question that we're talking about. I don't believe I'm not sure like who's the head writers on this show, but I don't think are they the female writers in question, or who are the head writers on the show? Because what might be going on is the head writers, showrunners are setting up the direction, not just for the plot of the series, but all these characters. So even if you do write like particular types of things well, hey, I got to do this thing for them to be fighting so we can keep this going, or I need to do this because of this plot coming up. So some of these writers in question, it may not matter if they're male or female, good at writing women or men or romance or not. That they may have to just stick to the plot line, so that may have to interfere with some of the scenes they're writing.
Yeah, importantly, we have a tendency to pin too much on who it is that's writing an episode, and not the writing staff at large, because a lot of the problem, especially with the Iris stuff, the Iris Eddie stuff especially, is in the way it was conceived in the first place. That from episode 1, you're like, okay, we're doing a traditional, typical CW love triangle. Okay. This was a thing that with more episodic TV, you could of course pin more stuff on the writer in question because they were say like Sergeant Next Generation or something. You're talking about singular standalone episodes that aren't about an overarching thing. But when you have a group of writers that sit in a room together and say, okay, we're gonna map it out for this season, yeah, it almost doesn't matter who it is that's right. And that's why in Gotham we've had a not very good episode written by Ben Edlund. Oh yeah, I had the same question, Dimitri J. How did Wells get the shapeshifter to memorize his spiel and go attack Cisco like that, and why? Because it was dramatic.
Yeah. It made for a good twist.
You know what? That guy should have been like Clayface. He should have been an actor. He should have been like a really famous actor. Because he just totally sold it. William Porcel, Cap, are you feeling okay? You're supporting a character death being retconned via time travel. Here's the thing. I don't see it as a retcon death because they clearly did it on purpose in heading in the direction they were going. I'm impressed that they... This is going to sound like I'm backtracking just a little bit, but I'm not. I'm impressed that they made it feel much less like a cop-out. I do like that already Iris is about to know that he's Flash regardless of it being really goofy the way they did it. I mean, that was really goofy. Yeah. But as far as... I don't know, are you with me, Steve? Like when they did it, I was like, oh, do we have to do this? And I don't know, man. I've seen it done so many times in other shows, and I went, well, at least it got me to like this character more. Like...
Wait, you got you to like Iris more?
No, I'm talking about Cisco.
Oh, okay, I thought you said Iris there for a second.
Well, I was talking about her to support this.
Yeah. But it did make me like him more. I agree with you. Because even when Cisco was annoying in the episode he died in, his speech that he heard from Wells was legitimately interesting, and him living with it and doing stuff afterwards was legitimately interesting. So, I mean, it's hard to criticize plot when something's so completely character-driven like that. I think it works for him. It's a little bit convenient. It's got its issues, but I think overall the point of it is to make Cisco more interesting, and it worked from that angle. And if that's the intent, then I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just impressed that ultimately it didn't feel like a tease like I thought it was in the first place. Although I guess it still is a little bit. I was like, oh look, we killed this character off, and a lot of people bought it hook, line, and sinker, even though we had time travel at the end. So. Okay, it's still that, but I guess what I'm saying is I don't like it, but I like it as well as more than I've ever liked that kind of thing. So,
yeah, it's better handled than anyone would expect.
Why don't we go ahead and move on now to Arrow, shall we? Arrow this week is all Sah-Him. So we've got Oliver fully embracing his new what's the word I'm looking for?
His new persona, his new role.
Thank you very much. We've got him fully embracing after only 3 weeks of brainwashing. What do you think of all that, Steve?
Okay, so Arrow has gotten to this point where the problems are so compounded that all you can really do is just see if you can enjoy certain episodes out of context. And with that said, 3 weeks of Oliver brainwashing and him now trying to kill Nyssa was all right. It wasn't necessarily as bad as anything else we've seen before. It wasn't necessarily good. But I don't know. I like seeing evil Stephen Amell. I think he plays that kind of well.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know. Ra's al Ghul's dialogue in this episode is fantastic. I really like all the speeches he gives Oliver, and the whole thing with Damien Dark. He's nothing like that's nothing like what he is in the comics, but they reinvented a guy who was basically nothing into something legitimately interesting connected to Ra's. And I think that could potentially make season 4 a little bit better, since you're gonna coalesce like a Suicide Squad thing and a Hive thing with Ra's al Ghul style mythology. That's a cool place to go forward with. But everything else, I'm just like, this is kind of by the numbers, and it's a little bit boring. Thea saving the day at the end, I didn't really buy at all. I didn't really get the whole archery's in my blood thing, because it's not at all.
Well, she didn't say. Importantly, she didn't say archery was in her blood. She just said that like superhero fighting or whatever it was. She said that, But it's not. No, I'm with you. I'm just saying, it wasn't specifically archery, although she was almost certainly taught how to shoot a bow and arrow.
Yeah, Malcolm taught her, but I mean, she's making it sound like it's her destiny. No, it's not at all. It just happened completely by circumstance after you were already born.
I would argue that, yeah, definitely. Especially because her father, became what he became totally on his own, and because of bad things that happened in his past, having nothing to do with lineage or anything. But I couldn't help but look at that and go, yeah, Thea, it makes more sense right now for Thea to be one of the vigilantes than it does Laurel by quite a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely. She might as well just be Black Canary now, because Laurel's not really doing anything with it.
Yeah. So that's how the Canary Cry works? Okay.
I like seeing a Black Canary that can scream a sonic scream, but I don't know. I don't like Laurel. I didn't really like her path there. Again, I have like no feeling towards that yet because there's so many problems compounded on each other.
The whole thing with Cisco building that, it's like, why did you make it a thing that you scream through?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, if there was some science mumbo-jumbo explanation of if you actually scream, it can amplify the sound, okay, fine, whatever.
I just want to know why that's an improvement over pushing a button. I don't. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of amusing. Steve, the Thea thing is driving me crazy because she was supposed to come back wrong and not be herself, and now she's just kind of back where she was 2 episodes ago. Are we ever gonna pay that off? I don't trust the show at this point to finally do anything with that, where it's some kind of thing where it looks like she's fine, but there's really something going on there. There's nothing behind her eyes that makes me think that it's anything other than what it is. I don't know if it's a mistake in the way she's acting it or what, but it makes you go, okay, well then there's no reason that they shouldn't have just brought Oliver back via Lazarus Pit, except that then Ra's al Ghul, I guess, wouldn't want him for the reasons he wants him. Oh, okay, but I mean, like, because I keep thinking, oh, well, they didn't do it that way because he would come back screwed up, but Thea was okay after like 25 minutes, so.
Yeah, that's really kind of bugging me. We'll see if by the season finale there's some actual long-term effect to that. But yeah, like you said, I don't trust the writers to do that. They have been really dropping the ball when it comes to stuff like that this season. They remember minuscule, tiny scenes from season 1 that don't actually amount to anything, but when it comes to like actual plot points to make a big deal out of, they seem to totally forget episode to episode. That
sounds a lot like Spawn, yeah. I didn't care for the way they ended this one. So we get to the end, and instead of killing her, that whole thing was a setup just to see if he would be willing to do that. We'll talk about the identity stuff in a minute because I'm a little bit conflicted about how they handled that. We'll talk about that in a second. But you get to the end, and it's like. Okay, so he's supposed to marry Nyssa now, so they can do kind of the Bruce Wayne Talia al Ghul thing. Wasn't surprised by that.
Just make a Batman show. Clearly, all these people want to do this season is say "Heir to the Demon" 1,000,000 times over again.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Make a Batman show. And why is Ra's doing a thing this convoluted to get his daughter to marry? I did like the whole, when you left, you gave up your rights to do it, and you should be glad I'm even keeping you alive at this point. But
you're alive aside from the kid thing. If you want Oliver to have a kid, just find someone else to have a kid with.
And I guess this means that Nyssa is his only daughter? And is there some reason they're not using Talia?
That's a good question. It's kind of weird. They might do the reverse thing, because in the comics, Talia is always with Ra's, and then Nyssa shows up out of nowhere being the abandoned child. Maybe they're going to do the opposite and have Talia show up later, but I don't know.
Talia will show up and be like, I have my own beloved. His name is Bruce Wayne.
Bruce Wayne, who's that?
He's in this universe. The Flash newspaper confirms it, so...
Yeah, that's true. Well, or at least that there are Waynes. Because it might not be Bruce Wayne. There might just be Waynes that are rich people.
She can't be dating Bruce Wayne. He's only like 8 years old or something.
and then, of course, Steve, you also have that amusing thing at the end where, oh, man, not only does Nyssa not want to marry Oliver Queen, but she also isn't into guys.
Yeah, that's a little strange. I don't know, that whole scene between like you will now marry Oliver. It just felt really forced and awkward. I'm not sure if you ever watched Adventure Time, but there's an episode where Finn goes around and tries to make a story for his friend Jake, and he forces like a duck and a fox to kiss. That's exactly what I was reminded of.
Oh man, that's pretty funny. I just feel like the thing with having Nissa run off by herself didn't really ultimately amount to very much, and they could have done this very same thing with keeping her there. I kind of think we needed to see her and Laurel. I hate to say this because I don't know that I wanted more of that, but I kind of think we needed to see more of her and Laurel before this, because they're like, oh, these last few weeks have been a real eye opener for me, and it's like, well, we only saw like 5 minutes of it, and
Yeah, it's exactly the way they handled Roy. They introduce the issue, and then they jump us in when the issue's already over. And apparently Nissa didn't actually train her that well because she still got beat up by a mugger.
Yeah, that's a good call. Well, she just keeps going. Yeah, no, that's not what you're supposed to do. And so I think they have this kind of conflicted thing right now where they want her to be good enough at fighting where she can put the costume on because she's put the costume on, so now she has to keep being Black Canary. But they also want to answer the whole fan thing of you've not been training long enough. So what they've done is just made her a liability every time.
Yeah.
And she should not be fighting.
No,
Anyway.
it's really weird. It's interesting how Laurel is in such a place now where she's the complete polar opposite of what Black Canary is in the comics. Especially when she marries Green Arrow later down the line.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, and they're still playing it like Felicity is Oliver's soulmate or something.
I don't get that. I don't like it very much. I wish she was with Diggle, considering their chemistry in season 1.
I've always said that. I mean, the thing with him remarrying his wife and stuff, I kind of like.
Oh,
but and I like the grounding of him having a family and trying to prove by example to Oliver that you can do that. And Diggle is kind of the example that shows why everything Oliver's done this season has been wrong.
I just wish they actually did more with the family, because Diggle's not a different person now that he has a family at all. They only matter when it's important to the plot.
Well, I don't think he has to be a different person. I think,
or at least it doesn't feel like he's actually like. There are episodes where he's going out in suicidal missions when Oliver's gone, and he doesn't look like he feels like he has anything at stake. Like he doesn't even begin to question. Okay, Oliver's not here. The city's under siege by Blockbuster. I need to think about my family. He never has any of those moments ever, unless it's important to the plot.
I mean, there have been a couple times where people have said, "Yeah, you shouldn't go out because you have this family," but you're right. It hasn't come from him. Anyway, Doc Holliday, Kat Guggenheim said Thea would suffer from Lazarus side effects in season 4. Well, those are belated, right? Like,
that's really strange. I don't think that's how Lazarus bits work, but that's all right. That's fine. You can make it do whatever you want, I guess.
Okay, that means that if anybody else ever gets brought back by Lazarus Pit, you can't trust anything that happens with them character-wise for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Okay, makes sense to me. It makes not as much sense as under the hood of the comic. So.
Which means that if that's how they bring back Sarah, and they put her in Legends of Tomorrow, I'm going to be like, okay, well, so we're watching a character that is acting a lot like the character she used to be, but is actually ultimately going to turn out to be someone else entirely. All right. Unless the effects are just like leprosy or something. The other thing I didn't care for is the bit with the Alpha Omega device, because I knew that was going to happen at some point this season. That whole thing is driving me crazy, man. All this like bringing back everything from the third year out of Starling City just because that's what we're doing in the flashbacks. So like the two people that he's dealt with in China are like really important to the plot, and then that thing is coming back, and really okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's convenient.
It's so predictable. It's so contrived. It's something that doesn't register me mentally.
Can we at least? Yeah, I'm drained. I mean, can we at least not keep watching flashbacks about it?
Yes, please.
Because
they need to get rid of the flashbacks at some point.
We all know where that's going because China's still there.
That's a good point.
Just saying. Let's see what else people are saying here. Oh, really? Not the Joker says, in Season 1, Thea has archery trophies.
That's interesting. That's weird. Okay, why not?
Johnny Torch, and I think they should have done this storyline earlier. They already did the World Without Arrow storyline this season when they really should have saved one or the other for next season. Well, I feel like we keep talking about how things are taking too long to happen in certain shows. In this show, it's let's do a premise for a thing that would be really interesting to do for an entire season, but let's truncate it into 2 episodes and get back to status quo really quick. And so, everybody's after Oliver Queen seems like a thing that should have been done for several episodes,
or a whole season, like you said, yeah.
And I would have liked to have seen this whole he becomes also him thing for a long time, or for a lot longer, and see how people have to deal with it. Especially because if we get him away from the brainwashing and back to Oliver too quickly, it's just gonna be too easy. But that's the name of the game this season, is stuff that's too easy, I think.
Yeah, if he's Oliver Queen again at the end of the season, I'm gonna be really angry because they probably aren't gonna earn that, considering that I barely know how he's a different person right now.
Me too.
They play up some of the identity stuff here and there, but the brainwashing and Oliver's completely inconsistent character up to this point make it so I don't really know what the difference is between Sah-Him and Oliver Queen, and they're making a big deal out of the fact that my name is no longer Oliver Queen.
I'm not gonna go that far, because the big difference between them is that hyperbolically, this is not true. The big difference between them is sort of kind of that he was his own person and now he is completely controlled by the demon set. The problem with that, of course, is that, again, Malcolm would just tell him anything and he would do whatever Malcolm said.
Yeah, so
there is that, but he is going off and killing his friends, or almost killing his friends willy-nilly just because Razagul tells him to. I think it's really sad, and legitimately really sad, the way Raz has been manipulating him, because clearly everything that he's making him do was all stuff that he had planned in the first place. At least from the point of he somehow miraculously survived the fall.
So what stopped him from just kidnapping Oliver and brainwashing him? Why does it matter that it's his choice, or coercing him into a choice?
That's a great point. I don't think it is. But what I was going to say is I think it is kind of legitimately sad that he tells. That's a great point. That he tells Oliver, you can become Razagul and make the League of Assassins anything you want it to be. And that was never ever the case. And for a minute, because this show, because I just don't trust the show anymore, I kept thinking that was like a problem or something. And the more I thought about it, I think it might potentially maybe be on purpose. But because it's like, well, the only way you can become Razagul is if you were completely brainwashed and your identity is totally taken away. So you could make it anything you wanted it to be, but what you'll want it to be is what I want it to be.
That's potentially interesting. We'll see how they wrap it up at the end of the season. But I don't know. I'm still kind of fixated on his weird mental division between I need to become something else, and that's the Arrow. I am Oliver Queen. I am Sah-Him. I don't. Those choices and those situations have been so contrived that even if Raz is like, no matter what, I'm going to brainwash you. I feel like it's not really that different from him being coerced into situations in every season. He becomes Arrow because his father killed himself in front of him and kind of forced his psychology to get there. He became a hero because Slade forced him into a situation where he needed to become a better person. He's doing all this because he'll believe whatever Malcolm Merlyn tells him to. I feel like if tomorrow morning Felicity said, hey, can you kill that guy for me, he'll say yes.
Yeah, or he'll at least consider it for a minute. I mean, he at the very least didn't immediately say, yes, okay, I'll go become Razagul.
They're just stretching that, though, because he was going to say yes anyway, eventually. And there were millions of opportunities for him to say yes, and we just kept stringing it along.
Well, and eventually, of course, ultimately he only did it because it was to save Thea, but it was a decision that it's one of those only things where if he had actually chosen to do it at the moment that he did, if he believed what Raz was selling, it would have actually made a little bit of sense. I mean, I said a few episodes ago that it would have made sense for him to have done it instead of what he did to put Thea in the Lazarus pit. But well, what's weird is everybody, and to your point, everybody's talking like he has all this willpower. And you look at what happened with him and Malcolm earlier this season, and I'm like, no, he does whatever this guy tells him to because he seems really gullible, right? It's worse even than, isn't Barry supposed to be a scientist?
It's much worse than that.
Like, it's even worse than that. So when it takes him 3 weeks to get completely brainwashed, and where he definitely, the couple times he was going to kill someone he cared about, would have probably actually stabbed the knife and pulled the bow and arrow. The Diggle, the whole thing with the fake Diggle thing, I liked quite a bit. But like, I'm thinking. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. When everybody's talking about him like he's got all this willpower, like, oh, Oliver Queen would never turn against his friends and could not possibly be brainwashed that easily. So the question is, did it happen that quickly because nobody, no matter how much willpower and no matter how much force of will they had, could fight against it, or did it happen because Oliver Queen really just doesn't have that much willpower?
Now, if that's ultimately the point, that he just doesn't have that much willpower, that could be legitimately interesting.
They won't do that.
Yeah, they won't. They obviously won't.
These characters speak mostly in abstraction now, which is part of the whole soap opera thing. And while they're speaking in abstraction, you can almost always tell when what we're being told is not how a character feels so much as a script spoon-feeding to us how we're supposed to feel.
Yeah, having conversations about ideas doesn't actually mean the ideas are there.
No, definitely not. And again, we're speaking about abstractions. When we talk about when we talk about stories that are driven by dialogue, we're talking about characters actually speaking about things in a context. And these characters don't speak about things in a context. They speak in abstractions. They talk about love, and they talk about duty and honor, but they don't really talk. There is a context in that there's stuff happening that's related to those things, but the way they talk about them are kind of just, what you'd write in a diary or something. You know what I mean? Like they're not conversations that build on each other. They're speeches. It's different. And so when they do that, I have a hard time thinking that it's not anything other than this is the script telling me what I'm supposed to feel. So when they say, when she says Oliver could not possibly have been turned, I feel like it's the show telling us that's how strong Ra's al Ghul's mojo is.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just kind of want the show at some point to sort of settle on its own identity before we even get like the character's identity now. Because yeah, you're right. It's about the abstraction. It's about like, hey, let's pick a theme for a season and just run with it scene to scene. I'm not even sure if these guys know what they want to make with the show anymore.
I think the answer to that question is money, Steve.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Well, the problem lately has been they don't really have a story to tell, and they kind of blew their the big stuff they wanted to do earlier, which is why I'm a little bit worried about Flash, because I'm afraid they might have done the same thing, where it's like we had one really great idea, what we need is new blood, But again, with the new showrunner next season, there could be reasons for optimism, Steve. Optimism.
I will try to keep it alive because I love season 1.
I'm gonna be Dr. Flux from Enterprise. Optimism, and then I'm gonna smile like way bigger than my actual face. Root. No, I'm really engaged in those flashbacks. Really straight face.
Totally. I am too. I am so excited. Can you read my excitement?
Ian, I want the straws to wind up being Damian Wayne, and this show retroactively takes place in the far future. Blame some Flash time travel wackiness.
I want to see that because it sounds hilarious.
William Purcell. Oh, I'm sorry. He was responding to another person that was not me, so I won't read that. Sorry, I'm going to see if there's anything else. Mind the Gap. The show has been trying to play up an identity crisis since the beginning. Well, an identity stuff is, legitimately in a clear, obvious, interesting place that you can go with superheroes that have secret identities. And the mistaken identity thing goes all the way back to Shakespeare. It's not a thing that gets old unless you're doing it because you don't have any better ideas, not because you have a take on it. You know what I mean? And so I feel like that was a thing that was working legitimately at the beginning of season 2 with the whole trying to figure out what it means to be a hero and change fundamentally what the Arrow is. Also the stuff with Sarah and Oliver, the kind of mirror between them. Of like how the island changed each of them, and not looking at the masks, but what Sarah is now versus what she was 5 years ago, what Oliver is now versus 5 years ago. There was a time when they had more of a handle on the identity crisis idea.
Yeah, I always go back to the end of season 1 where Malcolm says, "You don't know in your heart what you're fighting for." That really worked for me. That was very well done up to that point.
This is hilarious. AMC Comics. Okay, I'm calling it now. Oliver didn't really survive Ra's blade, and Maceo secretly dipped him in the Lazarus pit. When Ra's realizes that Oliver didn't fulfill the prophecy, he will release him from his role as the next Ra's, and the status quo will be reinstated. That would not surprise me.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them.
Completely possible.
Yeah,
I would
it's
put a
sad that that's a possibility, but yeah, it totally is.
Wow. The writer's quill. Oliver is going to be good by the end of the season. He helps Barry in The Flash by the end of the season, and in the picture with Sarah Canary from the spin-off show, has Oliver back in his Arrow suit.
Wait, that's all confirmed?
I don't know. Maybe he's making that up. I don't know what that is.
Oh, okay. I hope not. I'm trying to avoid spoilers for the show.
See, Steve believes everything he's told about the show because nothing seems too far-fetched.
Hey, if you wanted Adam West to show up tomorrow and be the Arrow, it could work, because it's nowhere near as inconsistent as anything else that they've done.
Why is it that everything I read is, like, really brutally critical, and then this show wins the percentage every week? I don't understand that. Mind the gap. It took Arrow forever to get to Katana. She should have been the one to bring Oliver back to Starling City.
Yeah.
Mixoplick, don't visit Starling City around this month every year. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yep, and don't go to Smallville High School in the final month of the semester either. Don't do that. All right, let's go ahead and move on now to what else have we got to talk about? We got to talk about Gotham. Oh, Gotham this week. The Anvil and the Hammer. Wow.
I like the episode titles, by the way.
Okay, so here's my main crux for Gotham, and folks watching live, feel free to go ahead and start talking about Gotham now in the comments, and I'll read some of those for you, and we'll talk about them. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing about Arrow real quick, because people keep asking me about this. Soundwave, Cap, did you know that Hannibal Bates was on Oliver Queen's list? Yeah, I read about that. Apparently, did you hear about this, Steve?
Yeah, I've read that somewhere.
Yeah, apparently he was on the list, and it doesn't make any sense that he was on the list because he wasn't anything like an important person that had influence or anything. I don't even think he lived in Starling City.
I don't think he did either. It makes about as much sense as Isabel Rochef from last season.
Well, yeah, but that was a much bigger deal because he should have... Because at least Oliver didn't deal with Hannibal Bates. Like Isabel Rochef was working with him and running his company. And yeah, did I tell you about the interview that I saw with Steve Amell, where he was just answering questions on a webcam, and he got to this. Somebody asked him about it. Somebody was like, Isabel Rochef was on the list, and Oliver didn't know. And he just reads the whole. It was a long question. He reads the whole thing, and then he says no comment, and he keeps going.
That's hilarious.
Yep, he just wouldn't even respond to it. Yeah, that's pretty great. He's like, yeah, I'm working for a living. You guys deal with it. Complain to the people that are responsible. It's not my fault. Okay, let's talk about Gotham. So, I am severely disappointed.
Yeah.
This week because maybe I read too far into it, but that first scene makes no sense based on what we had last episode. Somebody tell me what in the world I am missing. And it's even crazier because you get the last time on Gotham thing, and they show you that last scene where Barbara is in the kill room with the ogre, and she looks at him, and I swear to God, there's a faint hint of a smile. At the very least, she's not running in terror, right? And so I was like, oh, well, maybe she is embracing this whole I'm really a monster underneath thing. I mean, everything that episode was doing set up that kill room scene. And that scene made sense to me. And I was like, we're finally going to do something with this character. We decided to make her bad because nobody likes her, and she doesn't make any sense, and she's a total jerk face, and she's evil. And then you get to this episode, they drop all of that stuff.
Yeah.
All of the like monster stuff, not having to hide who you really, all of that, and she just becomes another one of his like slave girls. And it seems like just an excuse to have a whole lot of like BDSM imagery, really.
Yeah.
Man, I was so disappointed. I was baffled, man. You get to the beginning of that episode, and he's like, "Did you sleep well?" And she's like, "For the hour we slept." And I'm like, "Were they going out killing people?" Then when it comes to the whole you've been killing girls this whole time, she's so surprised and everything, and I'm like, what am I missing? Maybe she looked at that room and just thought that he was into like some kinky stuff, but there was some like really violent, scary stuff in that room, and that whole scene looked a lot more demented than that. What are we doing on this show, Steve? I don't know what
I'm watching anymore. Last week I was pretty confident we were watching a satire because I could not stop laughing at every scene. This time around, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about anything. We get that stuff with Harvey in the club, and I don't get it. It's really weird. You've got all this weird imagery going on. I don't know what you're trying to incite or make me feel about it. It's just weird. And it kind of has a cheap joke at the end, and okay. But I don't know, it just feels like scenes stitched together that they think mean something, or they think have an idea that maybe they think the BDSM imagery has like a point, or like it's supposed to symbolize something. I'm not seeing it. There's not a lot there. On the plus side, you finally have an outlet for Barbara's wooden acting, because now she's just shocked all the time.
That's a good point, but man, we need to write her out of the show. And is she dead? I don't know. Like,
she got like a cut around her neck.
He got this big cut on, but then I didn't get any sense of resolution from that. And now she's an even more reprehensible person because instead of sacrificing herself, she lets him kill her parents.
I don't understand that. We had one scene with them, one very tiny, not even a minute-long scene, where she asked to live with them, and they're really kind of weird and controlling, and now they're dead. I don't understand the point of that.
Was that supposed to set that up or something? I mean, don't you feel like, Steve, that they're doing scenes for that kind of arbitrarily, and then later on trying to pay them off to dupe us into thinking, oh, look, they had a plan all along. Like, even, and this was only 2 episodes removed, so maybe this was on purpose, but I don't know why we needed a whole subplot about Penguin getting that club just to set up a war. I don't get that. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I'm saying, why did we have to watch all of that?
Yeah, I don't get it either. It
doesn't inform his character. It doesn't.
But you're right. We didn't need to see that happen. There were 6 other ways to do that without that.
I don't like that payoff at all. I don't think it works.
I guess it's more interesting moving forward than it is right now.
Well, it doesn't matter how it happened is the problem, because how it happened makes about as much sense as Bruce Wayne just going to Wayne Enterprises and saying, "Hey, everybody, I think that you're doing corrupty things. Don't break into my house and try to kill my
Bruce Wayne is anything but subtle. In this episode, he was just an idiot for half of it.
That. Yeah, he was. Well, anyway, here's what didn't make sense about it. So, you're telling me that that a hired gun, that an assassin, is willing to go into a room knowing that he's gonna try to kill one of the main mob bosses in the city, and he knows he kind of knows what's gonna happen because he knows what he's supposed to say to him, right? And he knows walking in that all of this guy's thugs are standing around him with guns. What does he think is going to happen? Like, even if he gets away with it and manages to kill Maroney, how does he walk out of that room alive? I don't understand.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know, I feel like I have to go back and watch this one again. It's a little bit like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where I just don't understand what I'm watching. So the scene's going on while I'm still trying to piece together what happened a few seconds ago.
Steve, I've watched it twice. Didn't make any more sense the second time. I don't get it. Somebody explain it to me in the comments, please. I don't get it. The whole having a guy, and of course Penguin just likes watching people accidentally get killed. I mean, he just likes watching people get killed. Like, it's his favorite thing. So, like, if one more person can die inside of this war, all the better. Okay, that's fine. Having him use a hired gun that's going to get killed, pretending like he's going to kill Maroney. Fine, although I still think that we were strung along a little bit to get there, because I don't know. I don't know that he couldn't have contrived all kinds of different situations for that to happen, especially if you find an assassin that's stupid enough to walk into a room with that many guns that are totally going to be aimed at him. If you can find that guy, does it have to be that bar? I said club earlier, it's a bar. That bar that he always goes to that same time every year, like, does it have to be that? Couldn't like, Penguin, it could have been in his own club, because Maroni's gone there.
Mail him a package that says Falcone that explodes. That's all you needed.
I guess it probably
the
would.
Exact same effect.
Yeah, I'm not. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it wouldn't have made as much sense for it to be in his own club, because he didn't actually, want him dead, because he took the pin out of the thing. But anyway, I don't know. But like we had a whole subplot setting up a ruse. Okay.
Yeah, we didn't need to see that. It reminds me of the opening of the season when we had that girl who would eventually become a copy of Falcone's mother, and we didn't need to see all of that stuff set up, and we thought it was interesting in the moment because we thought it was going somewhere, and it really didn't matter.
There's been a lot of stalling and stretching stuff out, and I want to respond to this because I've gotten some complaints from some of our viewers that we're too hard on these shows for making things take too long, because they're saying that a lot of people are saying, well, it's these these long, like 22, 24 episode seasons. They can't do things as fast as you guys would like them to, and I've also had people even saying that, well, you guys know these characters already. Things have to go slower for people who don't. I don't think it's about any of that.
No, I don't agree with that.
I don't believe that either.
And this is not us ganging up on people that are saying that, but I've gotten that enough that I feel the need to respond to it, and I think this is the best possible place. There is a difference between taking your time and stalling. And here's the thing. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I think, is a good example of taking your time, but simply what they're doing is not interesting enough to me for as slow as they're moving. So you can do, like, Breaking Bad is a really slow show, but I'm engaged in everything that's happening in every moment. You see, so there's a difference. With this show, it's here's a scene because we need a scene. You know what I mean? It's not moving story forward. And you could say, oh well, but Cap, they were setting things up with the whole buying the club thing, or buying the bar thing. Yeah, but could I not have gotten the exact same thing and just mentioned that he bought that bar, and it would have been the exact same thing? You see what I'm saying? Like, why did I need to see those things dramatized? So when you're telling story, everything has to reveal something about character and or move story forward. What I'm talking about is not pacing. I'm talking about pointless scenes.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think that's what some people are confusing. They're confusing slow pacing with stalling.
Yeah, and I don't want to patronize our viewers if they're not, and they think that I'm just too hard on this stuff, and they're more interested in those scenes than I am, and they got a better read on it than me. That's great. But what I'm seeing with Gotham, and Arrow's a totally different animal, but what I'm seeing with Gotham is a bunch of stuff that's happening. The show.
I mean, if you want to boil this down to the simplest terms possible, I'm working all day. I come home at 8 o'clock to watch a show. Why do I care, aside from turning my brain off?
Yeah, and the thing is, you have to do things to engage the audience to keep coming back. And a lot of the time, what we do instead of doing that with real decent, sophisticated stories, which yes, you can do on mainstream television, because I've seen it before. So despite popular belief, it can be done. What happens more of the time, of course, is just like teasing and gimmicks, and that only works so far, because after a while you'll see something like Ra's al Ghul in an arrow suit, and you'll go, yeah, that's not going to pay off next episode, and it didn't. You see what I'm saying? So when people say, oh well, you've just got to be more patient, I say it's the show's job to keep me wanting to come back every episode, and when they don't, the only reason I'm watching is so I can talk about it for you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm off my soapbox now. I'm done with my speech. That was my speech. That was my speech.
Very good, very good.
Yes.
Thanks, man.
I completely agree. I'm not even sure if I have anything really articulate to add to that. Actually, I think you hit it right on the head.
Yeah. And again, just another clarification. We don't want these shows necessarily to be as good as Breaking Bad. That's not the point at all. It's just
Oh no, we do.
week
But
to
we're
week,
not gonna
just
hate
give
them
us.
because they're not.
Yeah, exactly. just make it interesting. Like this doesn't have to be the next Breaking Bad. Make it like I don't know. Make it like 24. Make it like Burn Notice. It doesn't have to be the smartest thing in the world. Just make it enjoyable day to day.
Yeah, and make it consistent. And don't give me a bunch of scenes strung in a row where I go, I don't know why I'm watching these scenes. I don't know I don't know what information I'm being fed right now. Okay, let's talk about the Riddler, Steve. I didn't either. So you get to the end, and they're like, "Oh, look, he's becoming the Riddler because he's got this compulsive." Somebody said Riddler's first compulsive clue. I'm like, to the girl he wants to get with, really? I mean, like, okay, so the whole thing is he's got this note that he writes from the boyfriend, and if you look at all the letters in the front of each sentence, it spells out Enigma. He's not giving this to the police or Batman. What is the point? I mean, like, Enigma's whole compulsive clue-giving thing is about his adversaries, right?
Yeah.
Yes?
It's about wanting people to find him. Unless he wants her to catch the fact that he killed her boyfriend, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And again, you don't have to do the character exactly the way he's done before. If there's a reason for it, fine. But do I trust it? No, I don't!
No, and I mean, if the idea is he subconsciously feels really guilty, so he wants her to turn him in, that could be interesting. But as it stands, he's way too detached from the fact that he just killed a man, considering the way that scene was first played, and the fact that it was absolutely hilarious.
I agree with Mind the Gap on this. He says it very much feels like all that early season stuff would make more sense if it was shorter.
Yes.
Johnny Torch, I really didn't need the whole storyline of Riddler disposing of Officer Meathead. And now he's meat everything. I'm going to ask a question, and maybe this is this. I was going to say controversial. I don't know. Steve, do you think that there are girls that like this show?
I don't know any, and I've shown even the good episodes to a couple, and they just can't get into it at all.
I just think that there is some real, especially the last couple episodes. I think there is some real, all borderline offensive, like male sexual fantasy stuff going on the last couple episodes.
I think you may be right there.
The way this show is looking at women right now really bugs me because and I mean, like, I know it's mostly like the bad guys, but like I don't even think that the way Gordon looks at women is all that far away from they're another species that men are put on the earth to protect, right? Like,
it's kind of Frank Miller, isn't it? Now that you say that.
Yeah, just the more I'm watching it, I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like they're looking for excuses to do a lot of like men hurting women stories. And I mean, like, that's an obvious go-to to come up with victims to sympathize with, and stuff like that. And of course, Batman's parents were murdered in an alley, so a lot of like murdering family members of people and stuff like that. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm hesitating saying that. I don't know if it's fair, but it's a thing I thought about this last time.
I mean, I would have to go back and watch the whole season thinking about that. But I mean, just from the way you're talking, it certainly feels like this show is more for like 30, 40-year-old guys, and there's not a whole lot of shifting perspectives or any kind of uniqueness to any of the female characters. Like, they're just kind of there to be there.
Yeah, I just don't. Still, real says or women can. Yeah, girls and women. That's what I'm saying. People that are not men, and boys. People of the feminine persuasion. I just like.
I'd love to see the demographic breakdowns for this show, just to see if that's true.
Yeah, and again, this is not me saying, oh, it's not appealing enough to that demographic. It's me saying, well, I knew women that were watching it at the beginning of the season, but I'm kind of afraid that like the way they write women. All I meant when I said that, somewhat hyperbolic. All I meant when I said that was, I don't know that that it's not somewhat offensive when it comes to the way it handles women.
Certainly possible, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Jack says Nigma wants people to find him. I don't think so. I think he wants people to try and fail. Yes, that's absolutely true. But I just don't. But yeah, the idea is winning a game of wit. What is the point of giving that note to the girl you're trying to date? It's a legitimate question. I'm just asking. Is it, hey, look, I'm so much smarter than all these other people, and they'll never figure it out, and so it's fun because I know I live in a world full of idiots? Because if that's the case, he needs to move to Arrowverse.
Because that was the easiest riddle ever.
AMC Comics, at the start of the season, I really thought Gotham was the best of the weekly shows, but it definitely lost some of its focus somewhere along the way. I mean, this week's episode is the season finale. Wait. Oh, we're almost on the season finale? Wow.
Oh, yeah, Monday is the season finale.
Good. Okay, well then that's nuts, right? So they did all that. I didn't know that. So they did what they did at the end of this to hurry up. Now you could say, oh well, they've been building it, but once again, I'm just saying, kind of seeded, sort of, but like, oh okay, so we're gonna have a big gang war for the finale, and oh okay, and I don't know who the season's main antagonist is supposed to be. Well, I'm less worried about the antagonist and more worried about protagonist, because I mean, I get that I'm supposed to care about what's going on with Gordon, and some of that's a little bit loopy. It's not Oliver loopy. I think I know who he is a little bit better than some other people. But looking at other characters, so is Fish just gone, or is she gonna like limp in to get shot? She's gonna limp in to get shot.
That's probably where we're going with that. I have no idea what the point of any of that doll maker stuff was at all. It was set up to do a thing, and I don't know what that thing is now.
Yeah. Let me look at a couple other things here. Like I said, the big thing I was really because last week I really enjoyed, actually, and the big thing that I was really disappointed with was that none of that monster stuff paid off. None of it.
Yeah, I mean they talked about it kind of, but it's just him saying, well, you know, I just made all that up so I could sleep with you, and now I'm going to admit that I'm a murderer.
Yeah, and
that's
then
almost literally what he said.
It deflates everything that was interesting about him.
Yeah,
because he had legitimate reasons from what he was saying last episode, to see her as his soulmate.
Yeah, no, you're right. It does.
I was
make
fascinated by that, because if it had continued to build where it seemed like maybe it was going, it would have made me be kind of impressed with them for turning a negative into a positive. It was like, oh, okay, well, right. you know what, viewers, you're right. This Barbara character that we made up, she doesn't work. She's a complete jerk. She's horrible. So it's like what again, I know I go back to this a lot, but it's like what some writers try to do with Spawn, where it's like, let's just make him a bad. The difference is he's the protagonist, so it doesn't really work with well, especially when you get the retcon stuff. With Barbara, yeah, turn her into a supervillain. Why not? Except don't have Gordon ever name a daughter after her. Looking to see if there's any other stuff we need to mention. Okay, so anyway, sorry, do you have any final words on this episode, Steve?
I have no idea what's gonna happen in the season finale. I don't even feel like we set up a season finale. It's just scenes doing things that apparently have a point that doesn't really resonate with me. I want this to be fun. I want this to be good, but it's not really as enjoyable as it could be.
Well, yeah, and again, as we keep stressing, it doesn't have to be Shakespeare. I just want to A, be entertained, and B, feel like I sort of have a sense of what I'm like, and some consistency would be nice. That's.
I mean, if you made it NCIS Gotham, if you make it Psych Gotham Division, I don't care. Make it something that I at least enjoy week to week. I don't even know what I'm watching now. Like, is it satire?
Hey, if they fully embrace the satire thing, if they made this, as I keep saying, black humor 60s Batman, okay, that's hilarious. I mean, like, last week was legitimately freaking hysterical if you put
it was.
that. If you look at it through those glasses, but I couldn't. Those glasses were out of focus this episode. It didn't work.
You know what'd be fun? Maybe what they need to do is a crossover with Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yes, let's do that.
Because ironically, the cops in that show are better. at their jobs.
Well, but keep in mind,
say ambulance show that they could do it with.
Yeah, but most of the cops in Gotham are corrupt people, so you gotta give them a little bit of slack. I think it'd be fun to see Gotham and Hawaii Five-0. Mostly just so that we can get a Gotham intro where it's Gordon and Bullock like riding around in a car. Da, 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 da. That would be the best thing ever.
I just want to do this
Gotham
CSI
intro.
thing where open the episode with a pun and then put sunglasses on at night. Because why not?
And maybe have 8-year-old Bruce Wayne in a surfing contest.
Yes.
Yeah, and then he gets turned into a human surfboard by a clown talking to a hot dog.
Yeah. They have the clown and they have the Joker in the show. They could compete and the first time they compete.
That'd be awesome. Okay, so once again,
it's destiny now.
Once again, I gotta keep saying this is, or quit saying that this is an hour show because we're already like an hour and a half in and we're not even to iZombie yet. So anyway, sorry about that, folks. If we talked about the show that you wanted us to talk about, feel free to go do better things if you have better things to do. But right now, we're going to talk about iZombie, and if you watch that show, feel free to go ahead and leave comments and discussion and stuff. I don't have a great deal to say about this episode. The big thing for me is I'm still really happy with the way we're telling singular stories and building the overarching story. The big highlight for me this episode was getting to see the police captain ex-principal Quan go into full rage zombie mode. That was awesome.
That was cool. Yeah.
That was very awesome. And what we were just talking about, pacing, slow pacing versus stalling, this show has been paced very well in the way it's been telling its story, for this season anyway. And it mixes them up with the case of the week, but yet it still manages to inform us of what's going on in the larger blueprint of the show. And that happens here very well with his name Quan. Oh man, that was
no.
so
That's
cool.
what I'm calling him because that's what he was back in Smallville.
Oh, okay. I don't remember his name either. Well, anyway, the cop. That was some cold-blooded stuff, and that was very good.
Yeah, and importantly, this show's not laying new track or anything. This is a thing as far as doing a procedural that also can have an overarching story. We've seen this done well before. That's why when shows can't manage it, I have a hard time going, well, it's hard to do 22 episodes. I mean, yeah, no, it's not easy, but you have templates. You know what I mean? The show understands what stories are supposed to be. It might be making up the overarching thing as it goes along, but it's at least in love enough with its own material to go, okay, what would make sense to be the next logical thing that happens? That's all I'm saying. And then there's a story with the procedural stuff that everything that we see seems to matter, makes sense, or at the very least is a funny joke that works in the context. Anyway, I'm just being sarcastic now. What do you think of this one, Steve?
I didn't like it as much as the last couple, just because I feel like they're going somewhere bigger in the next couple episodes. But it's still really, really good. I love the relationship stuff in this episode. I thought that whole he eats a brain and now he's gay and they have a drunk party thing, I thought that was hilarious.
And it could have been awful, and it was great.
Yeah, it was so good. I loved it. I loved that whole is he not into me thing actually played up as a joke near the end. I thought it was really fun. That was the highlight of the episode for me. I really like that actor. I don't know his name. I didn't look it up, but I think he's really good. And the stuff with her being a mother, and it's all played for kind of laughs, but her appreciation of life at the end is good, and all the gags we get with her as a parent still work, in my opinion. It was just fun to watch. The show was a lot like Psych, except it's more embracing the sci-fi stuff and the supernatural stuff.
I keep meaning to watch Psych. That looks like a good show.
It's really funny. Not as funny as this, but it's really funny.
Yeah, I thought that some of that motherly instinct stuff was kind of heartfelt and tender, and they handled that pretty real life, I thought.
I agree too. I was a little worried once I realized that she was going to eat the brain of a pregnant woman. Boy, that sounds not great.
Yeah.
But when I realized that was going to happen, I was like, oh, God, are we going to get an hour of oh, I can't have a baby? kind of material, which gets old really fast. And no, it actually they sew it into her personality and her situation and her life pretty well. I thought. No, she didn't fret about not having a baby for the whole show, but she did kind of have that maternal instinct towards her friends, her family, her little brother, and she understood her mother a little bit better. I do wish her mother. I still wish she was written better. Even in this episode, I'm not sure if they figured out how to kind of get us on her side as far as her behavior and her motivations. But otherwise, I thought that those scenes were really well done.
Are you hearing that with the brother too? Because I feel like the whole extended cast outside of just her and the main detective and her boss are just kind of a little typical, and are just the outlets for her new personality. They never really amount to much.
Yeah, that's true. That's one of my problems with the transition. I'm sorry, Logan.
No, you're fine.
That's one of my problems with the replacement cast that this show has rather than the comic book cast. Because the comic book cast is very interesting, whereas a number of the characters in this supporting cast are kind of typical for a TV show. And it's been taking me a little bit while. It's been taking me longer to get warming up to them. I mean, the characters I do like are like Ravi and Clive and I can't remember the main villain zombie guy's name.
Lost it.
Yeah, that guy. I really like them a lot, but everybody else is kind of like, yeah, CW kind of stuff.
Well, you're just not watching enough CW because, yeah, they're not, like, really super complex yet, but we haven't had a lot of screen time with them, and they're not annoying, so that's good.
I will grant you they're good CW stuff. Maybe I should make myself clear.
They might be typical. I would argue that at least for now they're supposed to be. That these are the people she was surrounded by when she was typical. And I think that's important to note because she would not have been an interesting character if we had watched her before she became a zombie. This is a character who this is a person who had her whole life mapped out for her and just went to college and did what she was supposed to and didn't do anything interesting. And of course, these are the kinds of people that would be the support network for that kind of life, right? Mm-hmm. So like they're good people. There's just nothing to them. I would argue that it's likely with the writing that we've seen so far that we could that I have reason to expect that they might make them more interesting when they start becoming more part of the overarching zombie plot. After all, we're taking the ex-boyfriend and putting him hip deep in the middle of that stuff, and he's immediately more fun to watch, and mostly because I'm used to CW shows just taking characters like that and constantly pining after. He's not sitting around pining after. He's going and trying to solve the zombie problem. He's like the only person doing that right now. That's fantastic. So, the mother, remember that in Buffy, her mom was kind of irritating too until she learned Buffy's secret and then was kind of fun. So, I think some of that might be on purpose, and I think verdict's out on it.
I would agree. I mean, I do have confidence. I do. This show has given me the confidence to hold off and wait because I do feel like we'll get to see these characters in other lights. I'm sorry, Steve.
Sorry, I was just saying. It certainly fits with his style. This is exactly how he gets there. Veronica Mars took a while before all of the side characters were really fleshed out, and they started kind of typical, but the typicalness played into their more complex personality later.
Yeah, they're supposed to be. I mean, importantly, there are people like this, and I don't think that it's... See, the difference between this and some other shows that I've seen, I'm not thinking of any examples readily, but we're supposed to, love people that are not interesting, is that they're kind of just there right now. It's not doing anything to tell me how I'm supposed to feel about them, because I'm not supposed to, except for Major, and he's doing things, so... Logan. And I don't even think I'm supposed to be in love with him yet. I think it's just that's the guy she was with, and if he's going to be still around, sort of, then we've got to have him do stuff. Anyway, I'm sorry. What Manos?
Logan, I'm getting a mental image of in your mind that you're thinking about Lana Lang as you were saying that.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. There's. Well, I was thinking of more like supporting, like Aunt Nell. That's who I was thinking of. Aunt Nell. A lot of people in the comments are saying, well, this show sounds great. I should probably sit down and watch the show.
Yeah!
Yes, you should. Definitely so. Save it. Keep it going.
Johnny Torch, I'd rather watch a full season of Captain Singh getting ready for his wedding than a zombie show. Give it a try. I don't like zombie stuff either, man.
It's not a typical zombie show.
Really a zombie show, yeah.
I mean, I hate zombie stuff, but this is great.
Oh, I do. Zombie movies and like The Walking Dead. I understand The Walking Dead has been, for the most part, very well written, very well made, very well acted. Bores me to tears, depresses me to tears. I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff. This is so different, and this takes the concept and flips it over. And we do have this lingering story arc of the villain, like, trying to, like, turn zombieism into a new drug.
Yeah.
And
cool.
he's dangerously getting close to accidentally causing a zombie apocalypse. Oh, and that's kind of the threat level right now. Like, this could happen in this story arc. And that sense of danger, I think, is interesting.
That guy is so calculating and so devious. I don't know that it's not on purpose. I think that he wants everybody that he can turn into a zombie to become a zombie because they're all potential customers. I mean, it's an evil consumerism plot.
Yeah.
You know, it's your classic, get everyone addicted to a thing, not to control them to do things for you, although he does that too with his minions, but also to addict people so that they can give you money for the drug that they need.
Yeah, it's not it's very thinly veiled drug metaphor there. I mean, he gets people addicted. He's the only one that has the resources for them, so he gets paid. He doesn't seem to be aware of the remarkable danger that could happen.
Steve, a couple of people are absolutely right. At no point when we were talking about Gotham did I say shiny shoes, mother of God, and I absolutely should have said that. Shiny shoes, mother of God. There you go.
But let's see. One of the things I like so much about this show is it really does blend together genres. It does, twist the zombie genre with crime drama and detective stuff. And you could even make a case that this is the closest I've seen zombies resemble vampires in a way, the way it's done. And I much prefer well-written vampires to zombie stuff. So yeah, this is a really interesting take, and there is some interesting takes on zombie stuff. Like I'm a big fan of Fido, which is a film where there was a zombie apocalypse and it was all solved, but the lingering zombies are being kept as pets. It's pretty funny and ghastly. And that's kind of what's going on here. I mean, somebody's taken the concept and just doing something completely different with it.
Well, what I like about it is it's like, okay, zombies are really popular, so how do we take that and put it into, and like, this is not always a good idea, but like, how do we, take that and then make it a character study, and the way to do that is to do, any kind of monster thing where a person has to be a monster and pretend like they're not and try to live a normal life, right? So we are plugging in for a formula, but it's a new enough take on it. These characters are their own people enough that I recognize what the formula they've plugged in is for, and they've made it fresh again.
Yeah, and it almost has a little bit of a superhero vibe to it, of course, obviously.
Oh, it definitely is. Yeah. Well, I love that in the intro she just straight out says, "I'm a zombie crime fighter." That's fantastic. I'm a crime fighting zombie. We haven't said this enough either. I love the theme song.
It's so good. I love it.
I do like the theme song a lot. I do get excited every time it pops on with that Mike Allred art. I love it. Yeah.
William Parcell asks, do they need to eat brains, or is it like an addiction? It's played sort of like it's both, because the idea is if you don't... It's sort of like Ketracel White in Deep Space Nine, where like if you don't have it often enough, you would go insane. And so the whole idea is you have to eat brains to... coincidentally keep your own brain, or maybe it's not coincidentally. Maybe there's some kind of biology to this, but like you have to eat brains to keep your actual brain going.
Yeah.
And That's
and
the idea.
if they go too long without eating brains, they become sort of reduced to the classic, typical George Romero zombie, mindless beasts, and they start. I imagine they'll probably start, decaying more. I think it's a little similar to a vampire kind of style monster, where it keeps them fresh, alive enough, but they have to keep eating this stuff.
I think eventually what will happen is you'll have several that aren't able to keep up their brain eating, and then a horde develops someplace. Yeah, that's got to happen eventually.
Mm-hmm.
A horde of the mindless ones, because we've already had one mindless one, like in episode 3 or something, and I think that's got to be a setup for we're eventually going to get a mindless zombie horde. So it is a zombie show. Basically, what we've got, if you've not watched the show, are people that are like proto-zombies. They're not really zombies yet. If they quit eating brains, then they would be real zombies.
Yeah, and I suppose you could call it an addiction, but it's basically people who are stuck in this situation where they need to eat the brains.
Oh, it's the same thing as blood with vampires.
Yeah.
That has been played as an addictive substance before, too, because it's like, they do start to crave it. So
yeah.
It's it's sort of addictive.
Or even people with chemical imbalances who need to take drugs to keep themselves straight and narrow. What if there was only one place you could get it, and that person was cartoonishly evil, like our guy in this show? Not a great position to be in.
Yeah, and that guy running a meat place is frightening.
Oh man, I know. That has, I love how much this show kind of gets away with some of its material, and the meat cute place. Boy, it's kind of dark. I mean, that's kind of like let's see, Team Sweeney Todd dark.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but the difference between it and Gotham Dark is that I don't care about anybody who gets dismembered in that show right now. Okay, so this is Sarcastic Cap today, and what we're going to do now is go on to our poll. So let's find out how much Arrow won by.
Yes. Arrow is terrible. I hate it. Let me vote for it.
Arrow is the worst thing on the planet. 5 stars.
Yeah.
Let's see. Once again, no disrespect to people and their opinions. If you're still really enjoying it, that's totally cool. There are action things and stuff to enjoy, but I don't know how it wins the list unless it's all you're watching.
I am envious of people that still enjoy that show because I really want to love it.
I want to too. Oh wow. Okay. We got a bit of a reversal. So before I reveal that, Manos, what was your favorite show this week?
iZombie. I thought that was a really good episode.
Steve.
iZombie, yeah.
Oh, I can't put iZombie over Flash this week.
Okay, well, say Flash.
Yeah, Flash is. I was just surprised. Sorry, I was surprised that Steve didn't pick Flash, especially because it's so much better than what we've had the last few episodes. No, Flash is my pick this week. I really, really enjoyed that.
That's fair. Yeah.
All right, I don't mean no like you're wrong. I just mean no like I can't go with the pack. That's all I meant. Okay, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. got 3% of the vote. Gotham got 1% of the vote, and only one person voted for it. iZombie only got 5% of the vote, and once again, that's probably because not a lot of people that watch this show, that watch Crisis, are watching iZombie. A lot of our viewership falls off as soon as we start talking about iZombie, and that's why I put it at the end. And then the Flash got 54% of the vote this week. Arrow only got 37. So Flash won the week. Yay! Cool.
Awesome. Tom Cavanaugh sells it.
I got one. Yes, he does, doesn't he? What's sad, though, is that we're not going to have any more of those, or probably as much of those really cool layered lines about time. Like everything he says has a double meaning.
When we go back and watch the season all over again.
They're gonna have a hard time writing as many of those now that people know who he is. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and do a little bit of open forum right now, just so we can round this out to way longer than it's supposed to be, and let's. 5 shows. It's tough to do in an hour, but it's at least not 4. So anyway, and I guess Star Wars is coming back pretty soon. So we should.
June 20th is the date.
Yeah.
Was it that late? Okay, cool. But yay, because that's a great show. Or at least it's been fun, and it's, we had issues with the last few, but that last one was pretty cool, and I'm excited about what we saw in the trailers. So, yeah, and Steve, we should probably do a little catch-up thing on Power Rangers here in a couple weeks.
Yes, we should. I need to see if I can find more of the episodes online.
That'd be great. Cool. So that we can be like, the show is silly. All right.
We actually take a mid-season break, so I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. I haven't been keeping up with that. Okay, so, open forum. If you have questions or comments about things that have been happening in superhero or comic book on-screen land, leave your comments about that. Steve, people have been asking me about about Daredevil Season 2 and how we feel about the showrunner leaving.
I'm not worried about it. The guys that are taking over wrote the best episodes of the series. They wrote Path of the Righteous. They wrote Rabbit in a Snowstorm. They wrote Shadows in the Glass. All of the most fascinating episodes of that show were written by the guys that are taking over now. And the way Steven DeKnight talks about them is that they were integral to making that show work. So I'm not worried about it. I kind of wish he was still there, but these guys have almost the exact same credits he does, and they worked much better. They worked as a team to begin with.
Steve, that show has been out all a month, and you are showing off when you start quoting episode titles, buddy.
I have memorized them. It's pretty fun.
You are showing off. Yeah, I'm not too worried about it either myself. Okay, real quick, why? Because I'm sure people are going to want to know about this too. I'm waiting for comments to come up. Let's real quick give our sentence or two reviews of Age of Ultron. We will be doing a spoiler cast next week on Age of Ultron. Sorry, it's going to come a week late, but I want Dan to be there, and Eric is going to try to be there as well. Fingers crossed on that. So he's busy, he's going to school. So anyway, and I know these guys are too, but he has to get up really early on Mondays. So anyway, Manos stupidly early on Monday. So anyway, real quick, sentence reviews. Manos, have you seen it yet?
I have seen it, yes.
Okay, your sentence or two review of Age of Ultron.
My sentence or two. I really loved it. I liked it.
We're the digression that happened there.
Yes, it's good.
And then I thought about it for a minute, and then I only liked it after that. No, I'm sorry. You may elaborate a little bit more if you'd like to, Manos.
Oh, yay! Yeah, I enjoyed. It was just extremely well put together. It's very well paced. You get to look into the characters a little bit more. There's a nice theme about evolution and parenthood. All the characters you really get to dig into a little bit more in this film. I almost called it an episode. And I think the action and pacing was just fantastic. It's just a good, solid film.
Steve has seen it 3 times and got to see it twice before anybody else did that doesn't live overseas. Good on you, Steve. Stop bragging and showing off about everything. Go ahead.
I've got 2 or 3 minor problems. All in all, though, having seen it 3 times, I can't decide if I like it more than Winter Soldier and Iron Man 3. I love it. I think it's really, really good. The moment Ultron shows up, I'm like, this is great. It's incredible how layered the philosophy and character work is. Vision steals the show for me. I can't wait to talk about Vision.
I think all the ideas there are really good. I think all the stuff on paper is fantastic, Steve. I think there's some stuff, especially setup-wise, that's pretty rushed. That movie needed to be an hour longer. There are a lot of exchanges that I can tell there was a lot more really interesting stuff that Whedon wrote that we haven't gotten to see yet. There's been a lot of talk about potential director's cut. I will believe that when I see it. Marvel's never done one, not a long one. So I don't know. I'll believe that when I see it. But overall, I really, really enjoyed it. I think that it is steps above the first. A lot of people are saying that it's kind of just more of the same but bigger. I disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think
I disagree with that too.
I think that all the characters that I wanted to see more from, we've gotten to see more of. I think it's done the exact same thing that Winter Soldier and Iron Man 3 and a lot of other movies have done, which is make Avengers better by adding to it and making it much more of a kind of a pilot for a TV show, as you'll hear me say in my superhero rewind for that movie. I am in love with Hawkeye now. Oh boy, did I enjoy him! And I have not laughed this much at a Marvel movie. It's hilarious, and I didn't expect. I expected it to be a lot heavier than it was, and there's some pretty heavy ideas. Certainly, and Tony Stark is a much scarier person after seeing that movie. And that's really interesting. But oh boy, there's a gag in the opening scene that continues throughout all the way to the very end, and it's about bookended with it, and I love that. It's hilarious. I think the party scene with the lifting the hammer thing might be one of my favorite things ever. It's just great. But anyway, yeah, I loved it.
I quickly want to mention, because I did my review and I was talking to some people in the comments about the hammer scene, and we actually got to a place where the hammer scene is funny, but the symbolism and the foreshadowing and the progression of what that means for the rest of the film is so explicit that it's insane that I didn't pick up on it sooner. It's really well done in that way.
Yeah, you're right. That is there.
That's a good example of good writing where you don't think anything of that. You don't realize it's foreshadowing. Because sometimes when you see foreshadowing in some films and TV shows, it's like ding, 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 ding.
Really blatantly obvious, yeah.
Yeah, this one, you just kind of run with it and have fun with it. And then that thing happens that is really cool, which I don't want to get into just in case.
All right, so there's our 1 or 10 or 20 sentence review of Age of Ultron, and now we're going to talk about other things. AMC Comics and Red Letter Antilles and a lot of other people want us to talk about the Suicide Squad pictures that just came up. I saw them like a minute and a half before we pressed the record button, so I don't really have much of an opinion yet, except that some of those characters look more like the actual comic characters than I think I expected them to. Obviously, a lot of 52 influence. I'm digging what I almost said the Lizard, what Killer Croc looks like, and I love that. I love that actor. I think he's a great choice, and the makeup's pretty cool looking. And Harley Quinn looks like current Harley Quinn. So anyway, what do you guys think?
You want to go first, Steve?
No, you can go ahead.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, I saw this. Actually, they also posted some pictures of Will Smith with and without the mask. I mean, really, all tonight actually. When I first saw that cast photo, I thought, "Oh, cool! No Doubt has a new album coming out." And I look closer, and it's like, "Oh, okay, it's the Suicide Squad cast." You're right. Harley Quinn is exactly what I expected her to look like. This is just, hey, buck up and face it. This is just what she looks like now.
Buck up and take it. Take it like a man, Manos.
That's right.
Take it like a Manos.
Who cares about like her classic, iconic look that actually worked and had no problem? Let's make her look like a Hot Topic waitress or something. I don't know. But yeah, everybody looks pretty good. I don't know. The design work, the makeup work, all looks pretty good and pretty efficient. Killer Croc looks good. Their costumes, their individual costumes, are a little kind of dull. But you know, other than that, that's kind of like all I feel.
It looks like the best fan film of 2004.
Oh yeah. I can't wait for this to come out in 1998.
Yeah, exactly. And I love David Ayer. I love Deadshot. I want this movie to be amazing. I love Suicide Squad. I've read so many of the comics. And Deadshot looks great. They're doing a religious thing with him, and that's completely counter to his character. Will Smith's a bad choice for it. And if you're going to do a religious thing, you're going to completely reinvent him like that. I don't know why you're even calling him Deadshot. You're going in the exact opposite direction of what that character is. But whatever. If it's good, I'll be okay with it. Everyone just looks like they were at a paintball party and then decided, hey, let's cosplay Suicide Squad.
And hey, let's make a movie.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. It will look better in context, maybe. I really want this to be good. I love the director. But I don't know. I think the costumes are really generic. They're really interchangeable. Mm-hmm. Except maybe Harley and Deadshot.
I still say that you're likely to see more things added to some of them. I think that's like the base costumes. There might be some more face and mask things, and I don't know. It's early. They just started. You know, the basic suits remind me a little bit of some of the soldiers in Arkham City, and it makes me kind of want these people to make an Arkham Asylum or Arkham City movie because the styles are really similar.
I will say the one that does look like she's off the page is the Katana costume with the mask.
Yeah.
I was surprised they did that mask like that. Yeah.
Oh, really?
It doesn't seem to fit necessarily with the way everyone else's costume is, but I thought Katana looked really good. I don't know who's playing her. Did they confirm that yet or no?
I have no idea who's playing her.
It's just some random person in a mask, and they'll cast her later. They've not.
Because I really like Katana. It'd be cool to get her to see her pop up here. She's had a pretty good couple of years. Beware the Batman forward.
Speaking of, someone named Crazy Steve. Steve, are you Crazy Steve, or is this a different person?
It may be a different person, but I can be crazy, so I don't know.
Because you asking us questions would be weird, but then it would explain why your name is Crazy Steve. So Crazy Steve says, Cap, what do you think of Katana being everywhere? Beware the Batman, Arrow, and Suicide Squad. I think it's telling so far that I have not noticed yet that she's everywhere. I mean, I didn't watch a lot of Beware the Batman. I need to go back and finish that show, and I keep forgetting that character in Arrow is her, so...
She is absolutely excellent in Beware the Batman. She is one of the best parts of that show.
Yeah, I would agree to that. She's fantastic. And I've liked that character ever since Batman and the Outsiders. Back in James O'Barr and Jim Aparo. I've always loved the character. I've always wondered why she's just sitting around doing nothing in DC for years and years. So it is kind of nice seeing her kind of have this sort of, I don't know, glory age right now. I mean, she's just kind of everywhere.
And I mean, Austria did have really good sitting with her on Suicide Squad, so if they're adapting any of that could be great.
Boy, I'm just stepping into some random conversations looking at the comments right now. It's always funny when I see a sentence and I'm like, I don't know what that went with. That's Preposterous said to someone, why would Hot Topic need a waitress? And I'm like, that just seems like something I have to say.
Oh, that's something I said.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
why does Hot Topic need a waitress?
Oh, it was a combined joke, actually.
It fits exactly like with the Joker costume because Joker looks like he's Hot Topic as a person.
Yeah, that's right.
What does God need with a starship? And what does Hot Topic need with a waitress? Now, Steve, I read somewhere today, and I don't know how confirmed this is. I don't know if this is confirmed at all, but I read something today that they just did that as a promo thing, and for Joker's 75th anniversary, and that he's actually not going to have those tattoos.
There are lots of set pictures with him now that show him with the green hair, and he doesn't have tattoos. But no one from the production has actually come out and confirmed that.
See, I still think if he has them, that they're going to be covered up with white paint. I'm telling you, that's what they're going to do.
Let me ask you. I've heard you mention that before. Why would he do that? That makes no sense.
Look, I didn't say it was going to make sense. I haven't seen the movie, dude.
It is the Joker. So.
All I'm saying is,
like, you thought this guy with tattoos and was me, but it's me. Ha! Like, yeah, I knew it was you, dude.
Well, he could have some reason, though, for having that more traditional clown look and then doing this more weird contemporary thing. I don't know. I'm just saying that it's but I had a good reason for saying it, which is, and some people said, oh, well, he looks really pale. Yeah, pale, but he's not wearing white paint, right? Like he's got those. His skin does not look bleached to me. People keep saying it. I don't see it. It doesn't look bleached to me.
May I throw out this suggestion? Maybe it's tattoos he gets after he gets thrown into Arkham Asylum.
Possibly.
That's what I was suggesting. I still don't think he's going to have them, though.
Maybe he starts doing the whole prison experience. He gets tattoos. He starts working out. He becomes Muslim.
Well, there's pictures of Jared Leto working out for the role, and he is really, really jacked. So he might be doing the whole prison routine. I'm okay with the tattoos as long as you get rid of the teeth and the damage thing.
The damage. Yeah, I'll even take the teeth over the damage thing. The damage thing is like the most obnoxiously dumb thing I've seen in a long time.
I still love the smile right here, so you can do this.
That's fun. Yeah.
Well, guys, I think we sadly are going to go ahead and go on and bid you adieu. I've got to go write some more Rewind. So anyway, everybody, thanks as always for watching. We sure appreciate it. We'll be with you again this coming week for more Primetime Crisis Life. I guess with the finale of Gotham. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I guess we're gonna tackle that, and then I guess here in a few weeks we're not gonna have any new TV shows anymore. So we'll we'll come up with some other fun content to put in the spot for you. And in the meantime, we're going to go on. I'm Captain Logan. This was Steve Baxi.
See you, everybody.
And the real Manos.
Peace.
See you, folks. Thanks for watching. Sure appreciate it.